You know you should be investing, but do you keep putting it off for the right time? Well, watch this for the next 10 to 12 minutes. Well, why? Because my crew told me I had to. I'm a prisoner to my own video crew right now. But for you, I will share when the best time is to invest and a rule that you should follow. Okay, now first and foremost, so should you be investing in the stock market right now? If you're asking that question, the answer is always no, okay? If you don't know, don't go, right? Don't go where you don't know. Because the truth is, like, if you're really not sure, if you're just kind of wondering about it, it probably isn't, you know? And it could be for various reasons. You might just be curious, just wondering if it's a good time, but then you have a risk of not knowing whether it is. If you knew the answer, you probably would be a good person to actually know when to invest in the market. Because you have the right education, you can actually see the right signals and times and know when it's good to get in. But you could also be asking because you're saying, hey, I'm wondering if it's good or not. I have my reservations. Then it probably isn't. And this is the mantra I like to go by, is that when in doubt, stay out. Okay? This is really regarding anything. I mean, if you're in doubt to real estate investing, you know what? Maybe you should stay out because it's just gonna consume you. It's gonna create fear in you. And really you wanna have as minimal amount of fear as possible when you're doing any of your investing. All right, so just know that if you're asking this question, the answer is likely no. Now, when is it the best time to invest in the stock market? I'll tell you when it's the best time, and it's not when most people say. It's not when, that people say, hey, economy's strong, right? It's not like after a recession necessarily. It's not any of that stuff. Because the truth is, the stock market and the economy kind of work independently of each other. There are times the stock market will boom when you're in a recession, and vice versa. The economy can be strong and the stock market will tank. This happened in 2002, where the economy had been recovering after Y2K, yet even though we were doing great economically, 2002 it was going down because companies like Enron or WorldCom had basically cooked their books. They fudged their numbers, right? They lied about the profits that were coming in, and as a result, when they started investigating all the companies, no one was confident to invest in the stock market, and it tanked 22% that year. It was the worst year, even though the previous 2 years were actually in a little market downturn. So it's not really correlated. It doesn't always work that way. So when's the best time to invest in the stock market? It's when everybody says, don't invest in the stock market. That is the best time. Now, the problem is that if you turn on the news, if you happen to be using the news as your information source, that's not gonna work for you, right? The news is never gonna do it because they usually tell you something that everybody already knows anyways. They don't really give you any information. They're just rehashing the same thing people are already talking about. So if they're saying, hey, stock market's great right now, that's probably the time to not be in the stock market. See, understand that it always goes in cycles, and it's often an emotional cycle. Because in the beginning, let's just say like we saw the last several years, I mean, we saw the stock market boom bigger, going up more than it had really in history. I mean, it's very uncommon to see that really for a 12-year period, and really going on to a 13th year, going through 2021, we saw the stock market going straight up. There was like 1 year, it was like this teeny little dip, but it really just was flat that year. So it wasn't even really much of a dip. But other than that, it was just going straight up year after year. That was unheard of. Now, it took people a while to have confidence in it. When it started going up, people were not saying buy. They were saying, oh, we were kind of pulling out of this. It's really nervous. It wasn't until a few years later people started saying, you know what? Maybe it is a good time to buy in the stock market. And then as the years went on, eventually it started getting to the point of like, even the media saying, you know what, this is a great stock market, sky's the limit. And then, this is when you know the end is near, right? And I don't mean the end of the world, the end of the stock market trend when it's going up, is when all of a sudden, your next door neighbor or that idiot brother-in-law or person from your high school class that really doesn't know anything about money starts saying, I want to invest there. That's the last phase of an up market when it comes to the stock market. After that point, it starts tanking because they call that the dumb money, right? When normal everyday people start throwing money into anything, that's usually the time that you should say, time to get out. I'm out of here. I'll take my profits and run. And you get out. That's what many of our clients did actually. They said, oh, this is probably the time. It's euphoric. Everybody loves it. Nothing can go wrong in the stock market. There's a few little whispers that, what if this stops? But people ignore it for the most part. That's when you know you should be out of the stock market. So when's the best time to get in? After it's already been going down. Again, you want to buy low, sell high, right? Well, how do you know it's the bottom? It's when everybody, including your idiot brother-in-law or your next door neighbor or that high school classmate that doesn't know anything about money starts saying, oh, stocks are risky. You shouldn't have any money in that. that's the perfect time to buy. So is that time right now? Heck no. It's definitely not now. We just got out of the phase where all the dumb money went in. And in fact, it's at the point where there's a lot of denial still. Now it's starting to be more accepted where people, including the investors, will say, yeah, maybe we're gonna start seeing a bear market. But many people are still denying it, saying, nah, I think it's gonna level off. I think we're at the bottom. When you hear people say, I think we're at the bottom, you're not at the bottom, okay? Not there yet. So I'm just telling you, the stock market has a far reach to go still, because you gotta get to the point where everybody hates the stock market. That's when it's the best time to buy. Now, what if you're in the market right now? What do? Because many people will come to us and they'll say, well, how do we put our money? Like, where do we put our money? If we don't want to lose money in the market, what do we do with it? Now, we're not investment advisors. I'm not claiming to give investment advice on this video right here. What I will say is this, is that you can move your money to other types of funds. You can look at other options that are more conservative, ones that maybe actually protect your money better. That could be just simply moving your money into cash. Now, if you move into cash, you'll make no money, but at least you won't lose any money either. Understand that 0% is not the worst rate of return you can get. 0% is actually a pretty dang good return, especially when markets tank. There's also money market funds. You can go in something like that. Now, some people will tell you that bond funds are a good place to be, but understand that even right now, we've already seen in 2022 before that bonds went down along with stocks. Both stocks and bonds tanked in 2022. So bonds are not always safe. So don't always count that they'll be going up when the stocks go down. But if you're really nervous and you want to at least preserve what you have, you could look at money market funds. Now, you could also look in other places too. You can start going to the places that we look at, which are alternative investments. Now, even if you have IRAs, you probably didn't realize, but you don't have to actually invest money with your financial advisor. And this is where you have cash. If you have money in mutual funds or stocks or bonds, whatever it might be, you can actually invest your money in almost any way you want. You don't need a financial advisor to do that. You can actually go into alternative investments. They refer to it as Main Street as opposed to Wall Street, which are stocks, right? You can go into Main Street. These are things like real estate. It could be like oil and gas, especially because oil and gas is one of those industries that actually is doing pretty well right now as prices rise. Real estate is also done very well. Now, I will put a big caveat on this. You're not going to be buying the normal real estate that everybody else buys, right? The person that hasn't really done real estate before will often buy a property that's near their house or in their same town, and that could be a gamble. Heck, I don't even tell, whenever I have clients in the western half of the United States like I'm in, they'll say, hey, I've got some rental properties out here. I've got rental properties in California, Oregon, and Washington. And I'll say, okay, might be a good time to look at selling because you've probably made a lot of equity. It's been hot, but right now it's about to not be hot, right? It's about to be the not category. So you got all this equity. It's probably not giving you a lot of cash flow. What if you could move it to somewhere else like in the Midwest or in the Southeast where there's better rates of return for the money that you're investing? You can buy essentially more real estate for less money. Go move it over there. And you can do that. You can actually move it to other places. See, I would think that the next best choice besides riding a stock market wave would be to not lose money, at least if you make 0%, even if you're in cash, right? But better after that is instead of losing money when everybody else is, because every financial advisor or expert will say, hold on to that ride, just ride that roller coaster all the way down, even if it makes you poop your pants, ride it all the way down, and then when it comes back up, eventually, down the road, you'll finally make your money back. But don't get out now, right? Notice that when it comes to financial advisors, it's always a good time to be into the stock market. It's always a good time to buy more. In fact, even if it's going down, they say buy more now because it's going on sale. Well, buddy, if you were that smart in the financial industry, you would have told me, wait till it hits the bottom and then put all your money in that time. Not buy it all the way down because you don't know what's happening. It's just admitting that you have no clue what's going on, right? And it's true, you can't tell what's going on in the stock market. But I can go in these alternative investments and make way more money in other places, like in real estate or even oil and gas, and make double-digit returns while everybody else is losing double-digit returns. I'm making double-digit returns, making a lot more, and so are a lot of our clients. So it really comes down to this, right? Should you be investing in the stock market right now? How do I know? I always come back to this same thing. When in doubt, stay out, or if you're in it, you might consider getting out. And this is something I've always said from the days I used to trade stocks, is that whenever my gut said, I don't know if it's the good time, that's usually when I either got out of my stock trades or I just stayed out altogether and didn't put my money there. In any case, hey guys, if this is useful to you, Click like and let us know where you invest your money. What are you doing if you've seen the market go down? Also, check out our video, the react video that I have to the stock market wiping out Americans' wealth. Trillions of dollars lost. Check out that video now.